Good evening and welcome to Mining the Riches of the Parsha. Tonight is Thursday night, May 15th, 2025. I missed you during the last 2 weeks that I was away, and I am thrilled to be back with you, and I look forward to being able to continue. And I do have an announcement. I'm very happy to announce that a week from tonight, so that's next Mining the Riches of the Parsha, May 22nd, we will, with God's help, resume in person at ADATH. We will also be on Zoom, but you are invited to come in person to ADATH, and hopefully we'll be able to continue both in person or on Zoom, whichever you prefer. But that will be a week from tonight, May 22nd. You're all invited to ADATH to join in person. This week's Torah portion, the Parsha of Emor, begins with the laws and the rules concerning a Kohen, someone who is from the priestly tribe. And there are certain duties and there are certain rules. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, God says to Moshe, Emor el ha-kohanim b'nei Aaron, tell the Kohanim, the priests, the sons of Aharon. Of course, Aharon, Moshe's brother, was the first Kohen, the first Kohen Gadol, the first high priest. So his descendants are the Kohanim even today. So, Emor el Kohanim b'nei Aaron, say to the Kohanim, the descendants of Aaron, v'amarta alehem, and say to them, lenefesh lo yitame b'amav, you're not allowed to come into contact with a dead body. A person who is a Kohen is not supposed to go to a cemetery, not supposed to go to a funeral, not supposed to come into contact with a dead body. There are certain exceptions. It's a complicated subject, but that's the basic rule that applies to a Kohen. We've discussed before the obvious question in the wording of this verse. The word Emor, tell the Kohanim, is repeated. Emor ve'amarta. God says to Moshe, tell the Kohanim and say to them, don't come into contact with a dead body. Now, tell them and say to them is repetitious. So why does the verse say Emor and ve'amarta? So Rashi quotes the famous line of our sages, Lahazhir gdolim alaktanim. This is to teach that you should say to the Kohanim that they should teach their children. So Emor al Kohanim, teach the adults, v'amarta alehem, and so that they should teach their children the proper way to act when they become bar mitzvah. Emor v'amarta lahazhir gdolim alaktanim, the adults are responsible to teach the children. This is, as we know, the universal mitzvah of chinuch, of educating children, to teach Torah to children, to teach them what to do and what not to do, what to observe and what not to observe, so that by the time they reach bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, they know what to do and they're acting properly as a religious Jew, as an observant Jew. And this mitzvah of chinuch, of educating our children to observe the Torah properly when they become a Jewish adult, it applies to every mitzvah. It applies to Shabbos, it applies to keeping kosher, it applies to tefillin, it applies to every mitzvah. Every mitzvah we need to teach our children before they become obligated at bar bat mitzvah, so that when the time comes that they're obligated, they know what to do. Question is, why is this lesson stated here in connection with this particular mitzvah? Why isn't this message, Emor ve'amarta, said in connection with Shabbos? To teach it, to say to the adults that you should teach your children how to observe Shabbos, or to keep kosher, or to observe Yom Tov. Why is the lesson specifically here? I want to share with you an incredible answer that I heard from Rabbi Meilech Biderman. A young boy who is a Kohen is taught, as a boy, not to go to a cemetery because he's a Kohen, not to go to a funeral, not to come into a contact with a dead body. Why? What is the reason? I mean, we want to tell the child not only what to do, but what the reason is. What's the reason that we tell the child that he's not allowed to do things? We say to him, because you are a Kohen. You are someone special. You have a specific role that because of the importance of your role, you should not come into contact with the dead body. Because you are so important, because your service to the Jewish people is so important, you cannot allow yourself to become ritually impure. And says Rabbi Biderman, this is a universal lesson, but it's said here because this is how we should educate our children and our grandchildren in every mitzvah. We say to a child, you can't go there. You can't go there because you're special. You can't do that. You can't do that because you're special. We want to inspire a child to act according to his or her elevated status. You're too important to do such a thing. We don't want to stress in educating children in Torah matters. You can't do this, you can't do that, don't do this, don't do that. We don't want to stress that. We want to emphasize you were special. You were chosen for a higher responsibility. You were chosen for a higher opportunity. And that is why there are certain limitations on what you can and cannot do. Our sages use this phrase, lahazhir gedolim alaktanim, which literally means to warn the adults to teach the children. Lahazhir, to warn the adults that they should teach the children what to do. I've pointed out before in a slightly different context, the word lahazhir also means to illuminate. Tonight is the beginning of Lag BaOmer. There is a connection between this holiday of Lag BaOmer, tonight and tomorrow, and the classic work of Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, called the Zohar. It's not exactly clear what the connection is, but there is a connection. So the Zohar, which is the classic work of Kabbalah, of Jewish mysticism, is something that we think about and discuss tonight and tomorrow. The word Zohar is from the same word lahazhir. And Sefer HaZohar means the book of light, illumination, the book of splendor. And that's what we want to teach our children. We want to teach our children, to teach them to spread the light and to spread the splendor to your children and to your grandchildren. And that should be the template, that should be the model for how we teach our children in every area of Jewish life. Lahazhir, to raise them up, to illuminate them, to make them understand that they're chosen, that they're elevated, that they are so important that these obligations exist for them. I recently returned home from a trip to Israel. It was a phenomenal trip in many ways. And I hope to share tonight a little bit. This morning I shared a little bit. Tomorrow morning I hope to share. Shabbos morning at ADATH I have something to share. I have a lot to share about this trip, all in different topics. So I arrived in Israel at the very end of the day of Yom HaZikaron, Israel's Memorial Day. That's the day that leads into Yom HaAtzmaut. I arrived in Israel just before midnight on that night. I read something that day that's just incredible, and I want to share it with you. We have spoken before about a young woman named Emily Damari. Emily Damari is 28 years old. She is an Israeli citizen and a British citizen. She was kidnapped and held hostage on October 7, 2023. She was released just this past January 19th. She was held hostage for over 500 days. She came back missing 2 fingers, among other injuries visible and not visible. On Yom HaZikaron, she wrote something that I want to share with you. She wrote, last year on this day, so this is 2024, Yom HaZikaron, Israel's Memorial Day, I was in captivity. She was being held by Hamas in Gaza. It was a day I will never forget. When the terrorists were watching Al Jazeera, we realized Yom HaZikaron had arrived. Memorial Day, it was that day. So you may know that in Israel, the practice is that on Yom HaZikaron, at 11 a.m., there's a siren that rings out throughout all of Israel, and the entire country comes to a stop and stands in silence, no matter what anyone is doing. If they're driving to get out of the car, if they're crossing the street, they stand still. Whatever they're doing, they stand up and stand still to pay tribute to the memory of those who gave their lives for the state of Israel and for the people of Israel. That's the practice in Israel. So she was in Gaza, being held hostage. But she knew that the day was Yom HaZikaron. And she writes, we decided to stand at 11 a.m. for a moment of silence in memory of the fallen who sacrificed their lives for us to live, in memory of our friends who were killed. To be in captivity, in the darkest, lowest, and worst place there is, and to stand for a moment of silence and not forget those who risked their lives so that we could continue to live and exist in our country. That was one of the most powerful moments of my life. Last week, Emily Damari wrote another letter. You may have seen this. I think it's very powerful, and I think it's important to share. Dear members of the Pulitzer Prize Board, last week the winners of the Pulitzer Prize were announced. Dear members of the Pulitzer Prizes Board, my name is Emily Damari. I was held hostage in Gaza for over 500 days. On the morning of October 7, I was at home when Hamas terrorists burst in, shot me, and dragged me across the border into Gaza. I was one of 251 men, women, and children, elderly people, kidnapped that day from their beds, their homes, and a music festival. For almost 500 days, I lived in terror. I was starved, abused, treated like I was less than human. I watched friends suffer. I watched hope dim. And even now, after returning home, I carry that darkness with me. So imagine my shock and pain when I saw that you, the Pulitzer Prize Board, awarded a Pulitzer Prize to Mossab Abu Toha. This is a man who in January questioned the very fact of my captivity. He posted about me on Facebook and asked, how on earth is this girl called a hostage? He's denied the murder of the Bibas family. He's questioned whether Agam Berger, another young woman that we've spoken about often, whether Agam Berger was truly a hostage. These are not word games. They are outright denials of documented atrocities. You claim, Pulitzer Prize, you claim to honor journalism that upholds truth and democracy and human dignity, and yet you have chosen to elevate a voice that denies truth, erases victims, and desecrates the memory of the murdered. Do you not see what this means? Mossab Abu Toha is not a courageous writer. He is the modern-day equivalent of a Holocaust denier, and by honoring him, you have joined him in the shadows of denial. This is not a question of politics. This is a question of humanity. And today, you have failed it. The main reason I went to Israel was to teach at Bar Ilan University Law School. I taught a week-long mini-course in Talmudic law. I was very honored to be invited to teach there. It was an incredible experience on many levels, and I hope to share more about that with you tomorrow morning. I had the privilege and the pleasure to spend time with my mother, my brother and his family, which was very wonderful, very, very meaningful and special. And I spent the rest of my time volunteering, which I will also discuss later. There are so many ways to volunteer and help when you go to Israel. And I realize right now it's quite difficult to get to Israel, but with God's help that will change. And people will go again. And when you go, there are so many ways, literally hundreds and hundreds of sources to connect you to volunteer opportunities in every area of Israel, every area of life, every interest, every level of ability. And there are so many people who are there volunteering in different ways. But I want to showcase now one organization, an organization that I made use of. This is one of the largest, most extensive and sophisticated organizations. They operate Facebook page, websites, etc., for volunteer opportunities in Israel. Literally thousands of volunteer opportunities every day in every area. And this organization is so helpful and well run. You provided with information on how to get there, what to bring with you, and then you can hear feedback from others on what their experience was like. I got an idea from this website for how I spent one of my days in Israel, which I hope to talk about soon in a couple of days. And I was then able to help others access the same opportunity because I had been there, so I could tell them how to get there and how to do it and where to go. It is a gigantic global community of people who just want to help in any way possible. People from all over the world, every background, every religion, and they just want to help Israel. And through this organization, along with many, many, many others, they're given the tools to do so. The organization I want to highlight tonight is called Sword of Iron. The founder of it is a woman named Yocheved Kim Ruttenberg. So she wrote a short paragraph to describe what it was that she wanted to accomplish, and she is so much more than she ever imagined it has blossomed into. She writes, "Create things you wish existed. This is my motto for life." This is exactly what we did and what we will continue to do. We're going down a path of creating things that Israel has never had before, and we're doing it together. Since the start of this group, Sword of Iron, we've uncovered something fascinating. People want to interact with Israel in a different way than ever before. People want to interact with Israelis in a deep way. People around the world want to take part in Israeli society, and volunteering allows for that. Volunteering is a way to give back to Israel and help the country without needing to serve in the army. It's a way of doing your part no matter how old you are, no matter what your background, ethnicity, or religion is. Volunteering is a way of life and a way to give back and protect this beautiful country. Such an inspiring person. And what she has created is so, so magnificent. So as I said, I made use of this website. I benefited from it. I was able to help others benefit from it. And certainly, when you get to Israel, Sword of Iron, look them up and find ways to volunteer. The phrase that we've quoted so often before, Bati l'chazek, I went in order to inspire and strengthen others, and I came away inspired and strengthened by them. And that is certainly my experience and the experience of most people who volunteer in Israel. So at the end of my trip, I wanted to thank this woman, Yocheved Kim Ruttenberg. And I wrote the following message to her. Hi Yocheved, we have not met or communicated. I joined your group recently to get volunteering ideas for a trip to Israel from which I just returned. Beside the incredible help I received and the ability to share some of my experiences to help others in the group, you have created something truly magnificent. Not just ways to help, huge by itself, but a display of Jewish character and Israeli strength that is deeply inspiring. I wish you continued growth and strength for your holy work and hope it can soon be directed to a more prosaic activity. On behalf of the entire Jewish people, thank you very much. My friends, I have a lot more to share, hopefully over the next few days. It was a trip that was heartbreaking at times, heartwarming sometimes at the same time. I learned a lot. I experienced a lot. And I feel privileged to have been able to go. My friends, I wish you a beautiful evening and a lovely Shabbos. And I look forward to seeing you soon in person.